889 TCM Shop.
Hi, I'm Robert Osborne. We're in the midst of night one and our week-long salute to April's star of the month, the legendary John Wayne. Since 8 p.m. Eastern, we've been looking at movies featuring John Wayne when he was trying to make a foothold in motion pictures. And back with me is a man who's written a new biography on the Duke, Scott Eyman. Welcome again, Scott.
Thanks, Bob.
Good to have you here. Now, our next film is another example of John Wayne in his formative years as an actor. It's a Warner Brothers release from 1932 called Haunted Gold, with a leading lady named Sheila Terry and a horse named Duke. Now, I don't know what happened to Sheila Terry, but Duke, you had earlier talked about a dog he had named Duke, and he was the Duke. How did the horse come into this?
I'm sure it was just an in-joke. You know, in 32 and 33, he signed to do a series of 6 B-Westerns at Warner's.
Now, this is interesting, Warner Brothers. You don't think of Warner Brothers as having a B unit or Westerns, John Wayne level Westerns, or what John Wayne was then, because Warner Brothers was Paul Muni and Betty Davis and all that sort of thing.
Right. These were produced independently by Leon Schlesinger.
I see.
And released through Warner Brothers.
I see, okay.
So they weren't technically done under the direct Warner Brothers roof.
Did they use sets at Warner Brothers and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, they used the back lot and they used the facilities.
So you could have better looking values then.
And they had their Warner Brothers crews, too, which were no small improvement.
Right.
And they were done in as few as 3 days apiece.
3 days.
Now, how do you shoot 60 minutes of film in 3 days, you ask? Well, you do it by using all the action footage in these pictures basically derives from a series of Ken Maynard's silent westerns that had been made by First National a few years earlier. And when sound came in and Warner Brothers was flush with money, they bought First National, including the First National Library. So they looked at all these westerns they had, which were actually quite good westerns, and they thought, well, let's repurpose this footage. Let's use all this footage, reuse the footage, and build new westerns around it. And we'll get some good-looking guy, and we'll get him. Yeah, John Wayne, that guy. We'll use him because he was inexpensive, and he was more or less about the same size as Ken Maynard. He's a little taller than Ken Maynard, but they costumed him to look as much like Ken Maynard's costumes as possible.
So they actually write scripts around the Ken Maynard footage that they could use and made another movie.
Exactly. And except for the close-ups of Wayne in a fight scene, for instance, it's basically all Ken Maynard footage.
Those guys knew how to turn a buck.
Well,
save a buck.
That was what it was about. You know, David Selznick used to say, there's only 2 kinds of movies that you can really make money with. Very cheap pictures and very expensive pictures. And I think he was right then. I think he's probably pretty much right now. And these pictures were extremely profitable. You know, they grossed 10 times their cost as a group of 6. You know, they were very, very successful.
So that would also get Warner Brothers films into theaters that normally might not book Warner Brothers films, too.
These pictures probably played theaters that didn't normally play John Wayne pictures. Because he was already working at Mascot, making serials at Mascot and making westerns at Monogram. And chances are the Warner Brothers entries would have been in a higher level of theater. So he might have actually been, audiences would have been seeing John Wayne that weren't used to seeing John Wayne.
So interesting also that if you're doing it in 3 days, you don't have much time for retakes or anything like that.
Oh, no, if nobody knocks a light over, it's a take.
It's a save. Oh, that's so great. Well, let's see the film. Here it is from 1932, one of 6 movies John Wayne made, released by Warner Brothers in the years 1932 and 1933. Here's Haunted Gold.